Back on May 15, 2023, People magazine put out this article that Meghan and Harry were marking Mental Health Awareness Month, and they visited with a group of young people and spent some time having a candid conversations with teens aged 14 to 18 from Santa Barbara. Did you know that the director of this organization had been caught in a scandal? Stay with me to find out what is going on. Hey, everybody. This is your daily dose of all things royal.
So we have to say no. The humanity, and this is my message, the people, they have to say no. They have to use this word, which is just very simple, no.
Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Now, I believe the reason why this story didn't get the attention and criticism that it should have is because Meghan had been shoving her face in to the public almost on a daily basis for like 2 months straight. Let's remember, this was around the time of the coronation. So we had will she, won't she, and then the pap walk with Marcus hiking where she was looking like a migrant. And then we also had her going off to New York and the talks about representing women. And I mean, we were just flooded nonstop. So when this story came out right before this trip, I mean, we were so over it that people were just not paying attention. So last night, and I have to give credit to Daily Impress, who connected the dots and brought this story now back into focus. And I think it's so important that we all talk about it. I'd like to preface and say that to my almost 100,000 subscribers, I do believe that the audience that has been cultivated here are of higher intelligence than what we see that support Meghan and Harry. Those that have been with me from the beginning know that it's never been about the quantity of subscribers and getting to this so-called milestone. It's about cultivating a community of like-minded people to have intelligent conversations in order to give awareness to people that see what is going on. Because the only way that we can stop this is for all of us to be working together and doing our part. So with that being said, please keep a very neutral mindset. It's not about right and it's not about left. And I know that there's quite a few of you who think that I attack the liberal progressives. The people in focus, these are the folks that are part of your party. The only reason why I'm talking about them is because Meghan and Harry are associated with them. If they were associated with right-wing conservatives and they were doing this shit, I would also be talking about them. Anyhow, I thank everyone who is here. And before we get into this, please do me the huge favor and hit that like button. It does help the channel reach more people. And without further ado, let's dig into this now. To give a bit of background, this is about an organization which is a non-for-profit called AHA, which stands for Healthy Attitudes, Emotional Harmony, and Lifelong Achievement for Teens. And they, according to their website, say that AHA equips teenagers, educators, and parents with social and emotional intelligence to dismantle apathy, prevent despair, and interrupt hate-based behavior. Doesn't really say much. I mean, this is all subjective. But anyhow, the person in question is a woman by the name of Jennifer Freed. Well, in September of this year, Jennifer Freed decides to give up her license after 42 years. And according to this local article in California, it was written that this highly controversial Santa Barbara therapist, psychological astrologer, public school contractor, teen sex guru, Gwyneth Paltrow friend Jennifer Freed has given up her license to practice in California. Freed made the announcement on her Substack site, A Map to Our Souls, saying she decided to retire her license as she realized one thing about getting older and erasing identities, you see how dearly precious each moment is and how essential it is to find the joy of being alive. When people are mirrored in old pain, it prevents them from being present. This is avoidable with the right kind of help. I venerate the work of truly gifted therapists and refer often. As for me, I no longer identify with being an MFT therapist. I am more of a spiritual consultant and advisor. I am more interested now in post-traumatic growth and living into solutions than solving problems. Now, all well and good for a person to take a new path in life, but there may be other factors at play, in which this is what the Daily Wire article had alluded to. And it includes her alleged counseling of a teen SA victim to sit down with her attacker and engaged in a quote unquote restorative justice session rather than report the incident to the authorities. Jennifer Freed allegedly asked her to do this in part because there were already too many so-called black men in prison. Now, of course, Jennifer Freed denied these version of events, but the school district eventually settled with the victim, and her attacker was a teacher who is seen above as Matif Haramachis, and the settlement was for $1 million, in which the teacher pleaded no contest to battery and was fired. What I don't understand is why wasn't he put in jail? So Daily Wire had been following this story and wrote a piece back in 2022 about this disgraced teacher. Following up, they interviewed the victim and they wrote an article this year in August. This article does talk about the support that this guy received in the community versus the support that the victim received. The victim is on record in this article stating that there was a smear campaign against her to protect the reputation of this bullshit CRT ethnic studies crap. The article says that the Ethnic Studies Now, which is an activist group with a chapter in Santa Barbara, aims to integrate ethnic studies into public school curriculums. The group also has a track record of associating with child abusers. The executive director of the group's Washington state chapter, for example, married a convicted child pedophile and moved her daughter in with him. In quotes, it says, "It's a very tight-knit group dedicated to social justice. Where it goes wrong? It's, we want this by any means necessary. I honestly don't think it matters if it means inflicting harm on an innocent person. I don't understand why I have to be villainized so they can feel better about their ideology." The victim continues to say, "To call me a liar makes them feel better because he can still continue to be part of that organization, when in reality they're giving a pedophile legitimate access to what they want, which is underage children." Continuing on to say, "There were people saying I was concocting this narrative to incarcerate a black man. There were black kids who were saying I could put my hands on you and then I would be put in jail. Where did you get that narrative?" Now, the part of this article that ties this all back to Harry and Meghan is this paragraph. Harmachi's wife, Diana Fugino, a professor of ethnic studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara, wrote a letter to the Credentialing Commission saying she believes her husband is fit to be in a classroom and that he has addressed any shortcomings he may have had. Now, that in itself is sick, but this woman, Diane Fugino, guess what, folks? She's on the board of directors of the AHA not-for-profit. Which, by the way, this very same not-for-profit public charity that takes donations from the public hasn't filed a tax return since 2009. So where are you, IRS, on this one? The excuse that the IRS is backed up is not going to fly here because they're missing 10 plus years worth of tax returns in which they have openly admitted that they received funding from the school districts, which is taxpayer funded money. So where are the returns? So if Jennifer Freed thinks by giving up her license is going to help save her from going to jail, well then how about the IRS go in and investigate this woman for tax evasion? Because this is what it looks like to me. I'm going to leave this phone number here. If you're in the United States and want to do something, please give the IRS a call tomorrow and alert them on this discovery. Maybe inquire as to where are the last 10 years worth of tax filings for this AHA. See what they say. So many people ask me what you can do. Well, here is an opportunity to help out. Go ahead and give them a call. And while you're at it, remind them about Archwell. What's so sickening about this is that the left, they prop up a person like Meghan Markle who claims to be a supporter of women. And here you have a victim who is a female and a minority and was treated in such a despicable, dehumanizing way. What about what these kinds of organizations, specifically Jennifer Freed of AHA, have done to this poor girl's mental health? In the court filing, let's take a look at the damages that this victim suffered in this Santa Barbara community, aka Meghan's community. Because she's a minor, she is referred to as Jane Doe throughout this document. So I'm going to scroll down real quick. You guys can pause it if you want to read what is being said here. But I want to get to the part where they talk about Matif and his resume. Okay, I'm going to begin this bullet number 16 halfway down. And it says, his employment duties and responsibilities with the named defendants included in part providing for the mentoring, advisory, educational, and emotional needs and well-being of students of Santa Barbara High School and other children, including plaintiff Jane Doe. On information and belief, Haramachis has an extensive history of disciplinary issues with Santa Barbara School District related to inappropriate conduct with students, specifically in or around 2004, while Haramachis teaching at Dos Pueblos High School, he was involved in an altercation with a student. During the investigation into this incident, it was discovered that Haramachis had made several inappropriate sexual comments to various female students during the 2003-2004 school year. Thereafter, in or around 2005, Santa Barbara School District gave Haramachis a notice of unprofessional conduct and unsatisfactory performance. Rather than terminating Haramachi, Santa Barbara School District transferred Haramachi to Santa Barbara High School in or around January 2005. Haramachi again was disciplined for threatening a student and making inappropriate sexual, sorry I have to do that due to the algorithm, to numerous female students. On information and belief, it was at this time that Santa Barbara School District was made aware that Haramachis was sexually grooming and taking advantage of female students. In fact, former Santa Barbara School District Superintendent Brian Sarvis publicly criticized Haramachis, calling him a detriment to students, and noting we cannot have Matif teaching high school students. Now going to bullet number 18, says here, specifically on information and belief, by and through its investigation of Haramachis, Santa Barbara School District knew or reasonably should have known that Haramachi was A, making sexually explicit and or inappropriate comments to female students, touching female students inappropriately, hugging female students, informing male students of what Haramachis could do with the female students in his class if he wanted to, and openly encouraging female students to not wear bras to school. Yeah, this was being allowed in Meghan's community. Please keep in the back of your mind that this man's wife is sitting on the board of this youth not-for-profit, AHA, so it makes total sense as to why Jennifer Freed mentored the victim in not pressing charges and trying to sway this woman into hashing it out with her abuser. Now, I wonder if the reason why they were pressuring her to drop the charges of this guy's arrest was because they failed to report this guy to Child Protective Services as it was going on. They failed to report Haramachis to law enforcement, and they failed to protect the students from this guy, knowing that they had a case against them. I almost feel like they had put the community up against this girl in order to prevent this lawsuit. I think what really upsets me about this particular story is knowing that this girl may not be the only girl that this guy abused. Now, I applaud this girl for coming forward and challenging the system to take on this guy to seek justice. It really does break my heart that the community had been against her. The very same community where Jennifer Freed and AHA had been grooming and so-called mentoring other female youth. And since Meghan is so focused on race, she's always targeting the minorities, whether it be Black people. In this situation, she's after the Latinos. When are people going to wake up to see that Meghan and Harry do not value human lives and do not believe that all lives are equal? This very same organization that Meghan and Harry decided to attach themselves to should have been there to help this girl, but as a direct result of the harassment that she received and the abuse by this guy, this person now has difficulty in reasonably or meaningfully interacting with others, including those in positions of authority over the victim, including supervisors and in intimate, confidential, and familial relationships due to this trauma that she suffered. The abuse that she incurred should never have happened if the community really was protecting the youth instead of preying on them. From a psychological standpoint, this inability for the victim to interact with others and trust others has caused the girl substantial emotional distress, anxiety, nervousness, and fear. As a direct result, as it says here, of Jane Doe's abuse and harassment by this monster, this girl experienced severe issues with her personal life, including issues with trust and difficulties maintaining meaningful relationships and difficulty with school. You know, this kind of stuff really does mess with your head. And here you have Meghan and Harry showing up at the school to talk about mental health and wellness when they're feeding and supporting the very same people who are hurting these students. This woman holding up the dildo knew what was going on and failed to protect this girl. Instead, she was trying to get her to rationalize what was happening to her, as if it was no big deal and that two people could sit down and talk about it and all will be okay, lecturing the victim about how her accusations against the teacher would contribute to the mass incarceration of Black men in America? Are you kidding me? And this person on Reddit summarized the situation the best and saying, and people still think what race baiters want is equality? Yeah, no, they don't. Race activists want equality. Race baiters want power and supremacy and the silence of others so they can get away with whatever shit they want. And that, my friends, are Meghan and Harry in a nutshell. There's no excuse for Meghan and Harry and the stupid people that work at Archwell not to know about this scandal. This was all over the news as well as locally in Santa Barbara. Regardless, there was some type of research that was done to choose this organization, and I will bet you that the only reason why they chose this organization was on the mere fact that the founder, Jennifer Freed, was a contributor for Goop and knows Gwyneth Paltrow. So they most likely knew about the scandal surrounding this woman and everything else, but we know Megsy, she will not do anything unless there's something in it for her. And being that she is so money and power hungry, she would sell her soul as well as Archie and little Betty's soul to the devil. Now I'm going to finish out this video with reading you an article that was published in the Santa Barbara News Press so you can understand what's going on in that community, Meghan's community. And this is on the front page. It says, "This is a cult. How wealthy Santa Barbara foreshadowed the fight against crackpot curriculum." I ask you, please stay with me on this article. And it begins, "In the fight to protect school children from radical curricula, the canary in the coal mine was a California coastal community, once home to former President Ronald Reagan's personal ranch, and now home to ultra-wealthy white liberals, as well as a large underclass of poor Hispanics. Critical race theory, CRT, which holds that American institutions and culture are systematically racist and categorizes people as either victims or oppressors based on skin color, has generated a backlash in recent years from parents. But a parents group called Fair Education Santa Barbara began fighting 4 years ago, filing what is believed to be the nation's first lawsuit against CRT and related pedagogy, which critics say poison the minds of young children. Although a federal judge ruled in 2019 that the group lacks standing to assert its claims of intentional discrimination on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, and sex, the suit foreshadowed a national fight for curriculum transparency. Fair Education's first-in-the-nation lawsuit lit the spark for the prairie fire that has spread across America to provide parents with the information and knowledge needed to fight the racially divisive, anti-American, sexually over-the-top indoctrination occurring daily in our schools beginning in kindergarten. Sheridan Rosenberg and James Fenker, local parents and co-founders of the group, wrote in a January submission to the Santa Barbara News Press, The parents charged that the district required all students to take extreme ethnic studies courses as a condition of graduating, put a radical activist group in charge of other programming, and refused to allow parents to see the curriculum. One specific claim asserted that the district segregated students for training sessions, telling white children that all whites are racist. One student allegedly contemplated suicide because he felt deep shame over not speaking Spanish. And people wonder what's causing this mental health crisis? Well, look no further. The people that think like Meghan and Harry are doing it. Opponents say CRT is part of a larger radical curriculum being imposed on public school children under a series of names that seem to change when opposition builds. School officials and Democrats claim, despite clear evidence that CRT isn't in schools, while also vehemently opposing growing efforts to ban it. While the battle is new for some, Santa Barbara parents have seen it play out longer than most. They say activist teachers have been working to turn children into political bot soldiers, and they warn that the radicalism steadily ratchets up over time. Ethnic studies is a particularly militant cousin of CRT. In 2011, an ethnic studies program in Phoenix was canceled after the state of Arizona charged that it violated a law prohibiting schools from teaching resentment towards a race or class of people or promoting the overthrow of the U.S. government. A top administrator found that students were being exploited by community activists and college academics who convinced Hispanic students they were part of the long-extinct Aztec culture. Mark Stegman, a college professor and then Phoenix Board of Education president, recounted visiting the class, which included the teacher telling students they were still in the struggle and having them chant, "We must be willing to act in a revolutionary fashion." What he witnessed mirrored a book he had read about the psychological dynamics of cults and prompted a chilling realization he recalled thinking. "This is a cult," Mr. Stegman scribbled in his notepad. A few years later, a handful of activists used the identical methods in Santa Barbara, operating under the banner, "Ethnic Studies Now." They sought to make ethnic studies a requirement for graduation and found support on the liberal city's all-female school board, whose members referred to each other as sister board members. The activist group quickly began to exert its influence on the Santa Barbara Unified School District, bringing in a range of radical curricula and left-wing consultants to inculcate children in fringe theories. Now, earlier in this video, I mentioned this group and their involvement with supporting this teacher. The article continues to say that key figures in the Ethnic Studies Now Santa Barbara chapter are disgraced history teacher Matef Haramachis and his wife, Diane Fugino. For years, Mr. Hamachis and Ms. Fugino regularly visited a prison to see an inmate convicted of conspiring to overthrow the government. Mr. Hamachis remained a mainstay at school board meetings even after he was convicted of battery against a student in 2017. A lawyer for the student says it was done in a sexual manner. Before he was fired in 2020, Mr. Haramachi preached his militant beliefs to a captive audience of students in a classroom adorned with pictures of communist killers like Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. He took his adopted surname from the name of a god worshipped by an ancient Egyptian cult. Before enraptured youth at one event, Mr. Hamachis declared himself an African and said, "I'm going to tell you what leadership means to African people. You must love, love, love your people, unfortunately sometimes to death, so your people can live. We take orders and we follow them to the letter on behalf of our people." According to public records, Mr. Harmachi's real name is Lee Barker. He is originally from Riverside, and he now lives in a home valued at some $1.6 million, blocks from the beach. Santa Barbara School District embraced the activist groups and absorbed their agendas, furthering them with taxpayer dollars. It hired Arnelson Concordia as Ethnic Studies Coordinator, budgeting $129,000 for the position. Mr. Concordia said he raises children to be disruptors of the white supremacist, patriarchal, heteronormative, imperialist hegemony. Jeez. Santa Barbara children chanted Mayan prayers despite the fact that Mayans were known for their ritualistic killing of children as sacrifices to the gods. Mr. Concordia later helped write a statewide ethnic studies curriculum approved by the State Board of Education that called for students to engage in an ethnic studies chant to bring the class together. For years, Santa Barbara School District turned over portions of its curriculum to activist nonprofits. Many were funded by the Fund for Santa Barbara, of which Mr. Harmachi's wife, Diane Fugino, a professor of Asian American Studies and one-time director of the Center for Black Studies Research at UCSB, serves on the board of directors. They bond to each other as educators and learners because as they get a consciousness about their power of being sexual beings. Ugh. One nonprofit, which the fund paid to provide social emotional learning certification workshops, is called AHA Santa Barbara Attitudes, Harmony, and Achievement. It gathered students into circles alongside adults, including one who served time in prison, to share intimate details of their lives. The program was created by Jennifer Freed, a certified astrologer and psychotherapist who tells people she can understand them based on cosmic DNA. Oh boy. Some AHA circles focus on the sex lives of the high schoolers. I had great sexual experiences with guys in junior high and high school, Ms. Freed said in an interview with the popular Sex Tips podcast, Sex with Emily. We do an after-school group for young women called Sexual Wisdom and one for guys. They bond to each other as educators and learners because as they get a consciousness about their power of being sexual beings. On the material that parents see, AHA advertises a girls' relationship wisdom group. Ms. Freed explained to the podcaster, "This is what we do with the teens. Once we've heard from them all their basic misconceptions about sex, like guys only want girls who have completely shaved pubes and then find us disgusting unless they're bare, then we go, okay, how's that working for you?" Like, I'm going to pause right there. What? Seriously, like, what business is it of this woman to counsel these minors on grooming their intimate areas? To me, I think as a parent, if I saw that my child was participating in a group discussing how to be a better lover, then you know what? I would yank them so far out of that group and tell them to hit the books. Right now, there seems to be so much focus on sexualizing these kids when they need to be studying, they need to be having their education and set on the right path to be valuable and productive in society, not a human waste like Meghan Markle. What I see here is that parents in America really need to take control back of their children, and I'm not sure what the solution is, especially when you're dealing with this kind of ideology that has been deeply rooted in some of these institutions, and especially in the school system, and it's being started as early as kindergarten. I'm going to continue just a little bit more on this article, and then I'll leave it to you if you want to finish reading the rest of it. SEL, also known as social emotional learning, is marketed to parents as something that can help address various forms of inequity and empower young people and adults to co-create thriving schools and contribute to safe, healthy, and just communities. How is that working out? I mean, I feel like our society is in a massive decline as a result of all this emotional learning. Other groups and individuals play key roles in the deep radicalization of Santa Barbara's school system. The Association of Raza Educators, a group that says its mission is to promote critical pedagogy as the principal means of addressing the question of how to teach our children, had the ears of district officials. Critical pedagogy is the application of critical theory, including critical race theory. Another group, Just Communities, received more than $1 million in grants from the school district to push a radical agenda under the guise of promoting equity. So, folks, I want you to keep these non-for-profits that are receiving all these grants in the back of your head, because don't be surprised if we see them pop up partnering together with Archwell. Anyhow, continuing on. Run until recently by Jared Schwartz, Just Communities held a district-funded summer camp where students were supposed to learn from activities that focus on ethnic and racial identity, stereotyping, communication, family issues, racism, homophobia, sexism, and classism. Just Communities is an offshoot of a now-defunct group called NCCJ, whose offspring have a disturbing record of mistreating children in the name of social justice. At another NCCJ-related camp in Northern California, students were ordered to separate by race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, while their peers are instructed to call out every slur and stereotype they know about them, the San Francisco Chronicle reported in 2018. So here is the problem with this social emotional learning. What people are failing to realize is that it tries to manipulate kids' emotions, and it encourages these kids to be vulnerable and share their feelings. And, I can see the allure of kids like trying to express with their parents and don't know how to communicate with them, but it's these predators that take advantage of that vulnerability in order to lure them into this dark, deep type of cult behavior. The biggest detriment that I see of this SEL learning is it taking away for individual thinking and the ability to critically think. Because what it does, it prioritizes feelings over truth. It does certainly undermine parental authority. It has been, and we've seen, being used to push a political agenda. Clearly, Meghan and Harry know a lot about that. It distracts from real academics such as math, reading, science, things that other countries like China are using to get ahead in this world and be productive society members. We also have this perpetuating a victim mentality, which is what it does. And it does overemphasize at the expense of character development. I think there's something really dangerous about this social emotional learning. Like, I'm not saying be a hard ass, but I do think that facts and truth really need to be presented more, such as reality versus avoiding feeling hurt, because life is not going to be all roses. And I think setting kids up for thinking that my feelings are the most important over what's reality is really a setup for failure. And these kids really don't know how to handle when failure comes or they don't get their way. We see them completely destruct in very dangerous manners, whether it be unaliving themselves or taking it out on others, or just simply thinking that they can do whatever they want because their feelings and their oppression, whether it be their minorities or what have you, supersedes another human being. And I think this radicalization of curriculum is a dangerous thing. I don't know how to unroot it. This is where the parents need to continue to fight for their children and stand up for them, even if the kids are going to end up for a small moment of time hating you for being a strict parent. But realize you're doing it out of love and you're doing it to keep them safe and really preventing them from falling down this trap, because what's going to end up happening is that your child is going to end up becoming part of the system in which these elites choose to take advantage of situations like what Meghan Markle has been doing. And I know that many say that Meghan Markle is not important. I agree. Meghan Markle is insignificant. It's what she represents is what I cannot stand. And the reason why I started Keep NYC Mega Trash Free is exactly because of this shit. I don't want this shit, even though it's here in my community in New York City. I don't want the Sussex Squad terrorists to grow here in New York, as is the head Sussex Squaddies are out of New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. A lot of those Sussex squatties belong to Antifa. So the last thing we need are more of those lunatics running around in New York City. We've seen over the last couple days some of them support Hamas and what they did to Israel. So no, I don't want that coming here, because essentially what Meghan really wants is people to worship her in a way that sees her as this perfect being, while she goes ahead and exploits and pillages, taking advantage of anyone and anything in order to benefit her. And this is what I don't like about her, meaning whatever comes along with Meghan to infect my city, even though it is infected, having her there just amplifies it, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I've been on this crusade, and, when stuff like this comes up, it really bothers me, because to be productive in society and for all of us to evolve, you cannot keep setting people back. And this is what Meghan and Harry have been doing. Meghan has set women back. Harry has totally mocked the mental health industry by using it as his grifting option. I think they take advantage of a lot of these issues rather than helping it get better. And I'm going to continue to keep speaking out on it. And I hope you all keep sharing this, because this is what has to be done. This is the solution. You have to stand up and you have to speak out. I'm going to go ahead and stop here with the article. For those that are interested in reading the rest of it, please feel free to pause this video and finish out the last 3 columns. It is a long article, but it is very good. And from the very beginning, when I started my other channel back in 2021, I have stated that Meghan and Harry enjoy taking advantage of vulnerable people and exploiting them for their own profit and gain. We've seen this time and time again. And I've also stated that these two are groomers. They are grooming the youth in this ideology, whether it be along whatever bandwagon that they are trampling on right now. But this is what they have been doing. And in this situation, by associating with this mental health, whatever sham of an organization, needs to be exposed and needs to be called out for what it is. Now, I know I've asked a lot of you guys in this video for a couple of favors, but this is the last favor I'm going to ask of you. I honestly would like to see these two guys weigh in on what is happening in our schools and how the kids are being groomed in this social emotional learning framework, in which underpinning it is the early sexualization of these kids, which does lead into what I'm seeing, the normalization of the minor attracted people, aka pedophiles. I would like to know from their perspective, are they seeing this type of curriculum infect their society? Because it's a dangerous thing. And, we need to figure out how parents can stop this before, we lose our children. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry represent what is wrong and toxic in this world. And it is people like that we need to protect our kids from. This is why it's so infuriating that they are so focused, and it's so obvious how they are preying upon the youth in order to manipulate them, use them, and exploit them for their profit. So if you're parents out there, do you find this acceptable? I think we need to continue to keep standing up, and we need to be calling this out. And hopefully, if any of you that know Sean or Ron, and give them a little nudge to say, hey, it would be interesting if they could talk about something like this, since they have a bigger platform. I would also be interested in their thoughts on how the WEF and the UN play a role in what we're seeing happening to these kids. Many of you have seen this clip before. I can't play it enough. This is Dr. Fuellmich's interview with former UN Executive Director, Dr. Călin Georgescu. I'm going to go ahead and link it again. If you haven't seen the whole thing, it's definitely worth a watch.
We have to say no. You're saying you have to say no to the UN because they are really the oligarchs. And when they're talking about peace, they're talking about war because they're interested in war because that's a good way to make money. When they talk about wealth And economic liberty for everyone, they're talking about poverty because keeping people in poverty makes them money.
You control.
Yeah,
You
control.
them totally. I mean, in the moment, do you know how many there are? More than 1 billion official, 1.2 billion people under $2 per day.
Oh.
The problem is that these oligarchs, all of them, are related with the system of the pedophilia one, because we know that there are more than 8 million children per year which they disappear. 8 million does mean the entire population of Austria. They disappear without any information, simply like that. And this is the transhumanism. So this criminal act is have to be stopped. And we stop.
I would be interested in seeing what these guys had to say. Maybe, here's an idea, Paula M., if you're out there and you're listening, perhaps maybe you guys do a live about this. You guys all know that I don't do lives, but I do enjoy watching you guys do these lives, as I do learn a lot. So it might be something for you guys to consider in the future. Anyhow, what do you guys think? Do you find this appalling? This, to me, just struck a chord. I knew in my gut that from the beginning, Meghan and Harry were no good, and the people that Meghan and Harry have associated themselves with are also no good. Clearly, you see what's going on here. Definitely leave your thoughts below, and as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye!
It was such a fraud.